is the June 29th meeting of the Westwood Recreation Commission, and this is Ann Delaney. I'm the chair of the commission. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed by Westwood Media Center. Access will be on YouTube and cable media channels and will be available for later playback. So the first item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? It does not appear so.
I do not see anybody here for public comment.
Okay, great. The next is the consent agenda. I need someone to motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll so move.
And then second,
I'll second.
and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And anyone not in favor? No dissents, okay. So the first item on the consent agenda is approval of the minutes from June 1st, which should be in your packet. They start on, looks like page 2 of the packet.
Correct.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on the agenda? I mean, on the minutes?
Nope.
Does anyone want a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you.
Wait, I'm sorry, was it?
That was Joyce, right?
Okay,
And then seconded by,
I'll second.
all in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone not in favor? Okay, and the next agenda item is the May report. Is that you, Rich? The May monthly report?
Sure. Does anybody have any questions? I'm happy to go over some highlights if you'd like. It was kind of a interesting month in May because, of course, we weren't open and we weren't running any programs. We spent the entire month canceling spring programs and preparing contingency plans for summer. And as I think I mentioned in the last meeting, one of the contingency plans that we did anticipate and plan and game out was having summer camp with what we call pods, or what is officially known through the state guidance, cohorts of 10. And it turned out that that was correct. And we also planned for social distancing with masks and all. So the fact that we did that, even though we didn't have the ultimate guidance, really helped us and allowed us to be ready for today, because today was first day of camp when the guidance finally did come out June 1st. We had a big head start on the guidance that they did provide. There were a lot of things in there that we didn't anticipate, and we spent from June 1st until really the 10th figuring it out. But the month of May, which is what we're talking about now, was all about planning for that guidance, and that was probably the biggest highlight of the entire month, frankly.
I'm really curious to see how today went, but
Yep.
do you want to talk about that later?
Yeah, that's on the agenda for later, so I'll give it a full update on that, absolutely. And I would be remiss if I did not also talk about in May the efforts that the aquatics team put planning for the reopening of the pool, which again I'll give an update later, but similar kind of idea that Sue and her team were doing, getting ready for the inevitable and opening. So that was really the bulk of the month for us, was planning and trying to figure out how we were going to operate this summer.
Well, I mean, it's amazing because, as I may have told you, I mean, Dedham Country Day Camp, where my son was going to work, closed. Nobles Camp closed, like all these big camps that you'd think this is what they do, right? They run a school and they run a camp. that they would be able to figure it out, and they just weren't, they canceled very quickly. So it was big effort on your part but the whole team's part
The whole team.
to get this going. So it's important because families need some place to send their kids. So
Right.
great job.
Thank you.
Look forward to the end of the agenda or later on. Does anyone have anything that they want to add to the agenda that couldn't be anticipated? Oh, I guess that's later. Sorry. I should have asked if anyone wanted to remove anything from the agenda to be discussed, but I didn't ask that already. So we've already approved it. Commission member reports. Does anyone have a report that they wish to share? It's not related to any other agenda item. No. All right. So the next is the director staff reports, and the first item on that agenda is the annual reorganization. So we have to vote in election of officers, chair, vice chair, and secretary. Rich, has anyone reached out to you in terms of any of these positions? I know you reached out to me. I'm happy to continue as chair.
That's the only communication I've had, and no one has, and of course, Lynn had mentioned that she was moving out, unfortunately.
Mhm.
But that was it. Those between you and Lynn.
All right, so vice chair, Mitch, are you happy to continue or to put your name forward? I guess we vote on all the
Well,
positions.
I don't think I'm currently vice chair,
Oh, is
but
it Joyce? I'm sorry.
I think it's Joyce.
Sorry, Joyce. Come on.
You sure?
I don't know. I didn't think I was. I thought you were, but I could have been. I didn't do much of them to deserve it. But if you need someone to take the title, I will. But why don't you? If you're vice chair, why don't you just stay?
Are you sure I'm vice chair? I mean, I can
All right, this meeting is being recorded.
continue if you'd like me to continue
We're not looking very good.
doing what I'm doing.
We're just such a team. We don't really care about titles.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, I think if I can't be at a meeting, someone else chairs it.
Whatever we need.
Well,
Sounds good.
I'm happy to nominate either one of you. But we do need someone to step up for secretary. Because unfortunately, this is Lynn's last meeting with us. I wish we could have seen you in person, Lynn.
I know, thank you. This is how I retired from
Good job.
teaching as well.
That's how you retire.
Oh, gee.
Wow.
Did you really? Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the question, Ann, is anybody willing to serve as secretary, clerk, so that it's required that minutes are taken at each of these meetings? That is a requirement. It is work, and we know Lynn has done such a great job over the years doing so.
Yeah, I did it for you once, Lynn. My notes were all over the place.
I definitely have gotten quieter since I started taking notes.
Oh,
Do we need to pull a name out of a hat? I don't even know if that's legal.
yeah.
And nominating.
I did my share for Little League, and it wasn't good. So you don't want me doing it.
Well, I can't, or I would volunteer, but I can't. It's between you guys.
So if no one offers to do it, I'll do it. Talk to the other guys. Talk to Paul and yeah.
Well, I would feel comfortable nominating you, Sheila.
It's interesting that Paul and Bob are not at this meeting. We can't volunteer them, I guess, if they're not at the meeting.
I also believe that the terms end tomorrow, so I think we need to finish this meeting with
Yeah.
the three positions.
Well, here comes Paul right now.
Paul, you've been elected as secretary. Congratulations.
No, we're actually looking for someone who would volunteer as secretary. Yeah, your camera is turned, or your
In
phone.
the car. In the car.
Oh,
There you go.
okay.
Better.
Are you
can't-
driving?
You're muted. You're muted,
He's
Paul.
definitely driving. Don't get in an accident, Paul. My God.
And he's muted.
Oh, definitely driving.
Yeah, he's definitely.
All right, so
I'm definitely driving, and I will not be really up just listening in as much as I possibly can. I'm sorry.
all right, so we're electing officers. So right now the nominees, I guess, are me for chair, vice chair Joyce or Mitch. I'm going to nominate either one of you. Unless, Paul, are you interested? We really need a secretary. We need someone to take notes. Are you interested in any of the positions?
No, thank you. I've done that. I did that for about 2 years. I think I've done my duty for secretary. It's very difficult. It's a tough job. It really is. But thank you.
Well, I guess then Sheila has graciously said if nobody else would take it, she will do a term, so we can vote on Sheila, and vice chair who will be voting on.
Up to Joyce.
Joyce, are you willing to take position of vice chair or run for the position of vice chair for the next term?
Sure.
All right, so do we need to formally put forth a motion for me and Joyce and Sheila?
I believe that you need to do them individually,
All
and
right.
they need to be motioned, seconded, and voted each one
Motion second
individually.
voted.
Yeah.
Okay, does anyone want to put forth a motion for chair?
I'll put forth the motion that Ann Delaney is chair of the commission for the next year, June 2020 through June 2021.
And I'll second that.
All in favor
Aye.
and opposed? Okay, great, then I'll continue for another year, and then, was that an opposed or in favor, Joyce? Just kidding. I'll put forward a motion for Joyce for vice chair. Does anyone want to second it?
You're out second. Sheila beat me.
Okay, Sheila seconded. All in favor? Aye.
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 And opposed? All right, I'll also put forward a motion for Sheila as secretary. Second?
Second.
Second.
I think Elizabeth seconded it. All in favor? Aye.
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 And anyone opposed? No. All right, so I think we have all the officers elected now.
Excellent.
And then the next item was the tennis court lights.
All right, so I put this on here because you may recall when the lights were installed last year, Nicole put forth, and I believe that this was in conjunction with Mike Gillette. And when this project was initially going through the approvals and all that, to have the push button on demand lighting for just one half of the courts and reserve the second half for leagues, programs, etc. To the extent that there were league programs and other activities in demand for the courts, and there wasn't necessarily a demand for all 6 courts at night. And that served us well last year. This year, I have received over the past 2 weeks, half dozen calls. I've received a couple of emails. Ken Aries has received several calls. And I don't want to call them complaints, but concern that the only one half of the lights are working. And it seems to me that we have an asset that we paid a lot of money for, and there are people waiting to use the courts at night. And it seems to me that they should be used. And of course, we can still reserve the courts for leagues. I know Elizabeth has a league that is up and running now, thankfully, and that will continue. And if other leagues or other programs want to start, we can still reserve half the courts for that purpose. But if they're not being used, it's crazy not to use the lights, in my opinion. So I wanted to propose that to the members tonight for discussion, and preferably and hopefully for a vote to recommend that we start using all the lights for push button access when the courts are not reserved for leagues and programs and what have you. I will take that recommendation either way to town administration, and hopefully get that approved, and we can turn on the lights soon so that everybody can enjoy, or more people can enjoy, the courts.
Okay, Rich, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that only 3 of the courts could be lit up.
That's
Why? Oh, that seems silly. Why did we put lights in the courts and not use all 6 if people have need?
I think it was an experiment last year. Last year, we were sort of figuring out how much use those courts would get with the lights.
Mhm.
And I think last year, the 3 courts, I think it was okay.
Yeah, that's my recollection too.
And then maybe this year it's not so okay, because maybe there's just more pent up demand because of COVID, and you can play tennis safely, and
The weather's been nice. Nobody's going
weather's been
away.
nice. Yeah. Mhm.
More people are here. So that I thought it was, if you had to put push button to one of the 3 courts, and then if the others needed, you could just turn it on. Shouldn't that? That's not the case.
No.
That's how it will be, though? Is that what you're proposing? Like the push button is not all 6 courts, it would be like 3 and then 3 maybe?
That's correct. The one thing that we won't be able to do is require all 3 on one side before the other one turns. So you could have one person or one group use one court on one side, and then another one go to the other side and use that. There's no way to prevent that. But to me, and again, this is just my opinion, it's crazy to have people waiting to use the lighted courts when we have them. I mean, we paid a lot of money for those lights. They're beautiful. They work great. And I think that we should use all 6 courts if that's where the demand is. And to me, that's a better solution than having people wait just for the risk of, geez, maybe you have one group on one side and another group on the other, and theoretically you're wasting, the electricity for where they both could be on one side.
I think that makes sense to me.
Yep. Not to play just to play devil's advocate, have there been any complaints by any of the members about the lights?
No, and it would be shocking to me if we did, because if you've seen those courts at night, and I know, Elizabeth, you can attest to this because you've used them many times, the light spillage 10 feet off the court is 0. It's unbelievable how focused those lights are on the courts. And so they shouldn't be bothering anybody.
No, they're not. They're great. They're great lights. So I just have a question about the league, which we, got washed out last night.
I'll say. In
and
biblical fashion.
Oh my goodness. And we're slated to play tomorrow night too. We're all bringing our own balls and whatnot, but there's no signage. So if those lights were going to be on regularly, Sunday through Saturday, for anybody who's coming in on a league and there are people playing, we just don't have any signage right now. So that last year it wasn't an issue because those courts, it never was an issue on a Sunday night. Let's just put it that way. Tuesday night, I'm not sure. And I do think there's a lot of people using the courts because I'm up there like 4 times a week and they're always full.
So let's think, maybe Elizabeth, we can think through that a little bit tomorrow offline about how to manage that. That's sort of similar to if somebody's using the field and someone has a permit. You know what I mean? You kind of have to boot them off. You know what I mean when your time comes, and whether we give you a permit that you could show up or it's just where it's variable, posting a schedule out on the court. I'm not opposed to that, but I'm not quite sure because schedules change, right? And so, but we can talk about either solution.
Yeah, we had a sign last year. That's all, and Nicole put out that it was on Sundays and Tuesdays.
Yeah, well, we can do
those
that.
courts. Yeah, that was
So, can I say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Paul.
So, do we have the ability to add credit cards to those machines, to those switches, a credit card option? Because if we're getting this much feedback, I mean, we can charge a minimum. Why aren't we charging a minimum fee? If we've got 6 or 7 people a night using it, why aren't we taking advantage of getting our money back? And if we can get credit cards added to it, again, I'll throw that out to you. If you and Elizabeth are going to run with this, I'll throw that out to both of you just to say, well, let's take a look at whether we can add credit cards, how much it's going to cost, and then obviously our experiment worked. People are using it, so if they're using it, and not everything is free, right?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with other towns with credit cards on their lights. I would need to better understand how that would work.
Or you have to know technology-wise whether you can do it with the hardware that we have currently.
Yeah,
Those are
I don't
two
know.
things that you have to do.
You would be charging whoever happened to be hitting it first, and other people were getting a free ride off of that.
Yeah, I just don't know any other towns that do that. That have like a pay function on the light itself.
So you have to contact the light manufacturer is what you'd have to do.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah,
manufacturer,
I can
the
tell
guy
you, Paul, I can tell you that right now, currently, the only way that we have to charge is if people reserve the courts. Mm-hmm. And so I'll be happy to reach out to Musco. I'm not aware of it. The only thing that I will add, and of course, this lighting project started before I joined the rec department, but obviously I saw it through once it got to the approval stage, the formal approval stage, and through to implementation and installation. And it's my understanding that the way that this thing was sold to the town was that there would not be a charge. And I'm virtually certain, as a matter of fact, I am certain that Nicole went in front of the select board and presented it that way, and even talked about the amount of money it would cost to run those lights if it were on for every second of every day from March 1st to November 30th. And it was relatively de minimis. It was like $5,000 or $5,200 or something like that for that entire time.
So Rich, I'm sorry, that's a surprise to me because if anybody else, maybe I missed the meeting, maybe I missed a conversation. But if Nicole said that to somebody, I don't. If anybody else can tell me and set me straight here, I don't recall ever hearing that in one of our meetings or the commission agreeing to that.
So I'm pretty certain, Paul, and again, I could try to look for it, but I'm pretty certain that the presentation that she and I'll verify this. This is my recollection, but she also brought it to the rec commission.
Okay. I also agree that there should not be any charges. The court should be free.
Court should be free. I would agree with that.
I don't think we should be charging people. Yeah.
That's fine.
And then we did discuss it at a meeting.
So
do we want to put this on next month or August meeting, and Rich can look up and see what was agreed to when the lights were,
Well, and I would think on a temporary basis, we turn the lights on and then somebody.
absolutely. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
just meant to
temporarily-
defer the discussion about a cost until we have more details as to what.
Yeah, I mean, just
Alright.
especially this summer where, you know, people, this is like an activity that people can do for
Right.
Yeah, I think we should
stress
have them
relief.
on.
I think we should have them on. So,
And then we'll have a better idea of how much they're being used to. And
yeah,
that $5,200 number does sound familiar, Rich, to me. Like
what was that number? I kind of, I got bumped out. My
that
internet-
was like Nicole had presented that as if the lights were on 24/7 or as many hours as they could be on all the
Right,
days
from
before.
dusk to 10 p.m. from
November.
March 1st to November 30th.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't recall any discussion of charging people for the lights. I don't
Yeah.
remember any one way or another.
Yeah.
And the lights are not really going to come on until probably 8 o'clock right now. And what time can you play until? Like
And
10
10.
p.m.
Yeah, so 2 hours a night, and really you know, I mean, by August they'll start coming on at like 7:30. You know, so just a couple hours.
So, I mean, I'm sorry, Liz, are there, and I'm sorry, I don't know this, but is there a sign there saying that if there are people waiting, you have to like limit your playing time? Is there a sign to that?
So the signage really, no offense, Rich, the signage is old. It's really hard to read. The signage really needs to be updated. We have people who are going out, you know, people are waiting, but we have other people who are using the courts inappropriately, like as a skate park, even though it says tennis
Really?
only. Yeah. It's definitely become an issue a couple times. I've had to say something and people I play with have brought it to my attention. So they've asked me to just let you know that, you know,
So,
I know
Elizabeth,
that signage is not like a top priority, so
Well-
I get it.
but it is important. So let me ask you this: would you be willing to, in a similar fashion to what we did with the field policy, would you be willing to lead a subcommittee of what we want the signage to be? I don't think this needs to be
Yeah.
long and involved as the fields policy was, but in other words, I just don't want to go out and create signage. But if you guys have ideas of what the sign should say or what they should look like, I'll be happy to facilitate getting them made. But if you feel like they're inadequate, I'd like to know what you would like to see so that the next round of signage meets what you'd like to see. Do you follow me?
Yeah, no, I think what's there it is appropriate. It's just worn out and it's really small print. So maybe less, I don't know. I'll take a picture of it and come up with some ideas and happy to share it with this group and you can look at it.
Yeah.
there's
Be
a
happy
lot
to
of
get new
background
signage.
noise.
That's definitely not a problem.
Okay.
I'm wondering if people could mute themselves if they're not talking. There's a lot of background noise coming from somewhere. Great, thank you. Now, of course, you know, obviously don't feel like you can't unmute and talk. Yeah. All right,
All
so
right.
Elizabeth, you're going to get some information to Rich regarding what should be on the signs.
Yep, no problem.
All right. So if I think I heard general agreement though that we should turn the lights on.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, Ann, could I ask you to take a formal vote on that so that I can pass it on to town administration?
Sure, I'll make a motion to turn the lights on. Does anyone second it?
I do.
Lynn seconds, and then all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Great, the motion passes.
All right.
Event updates, the Fireman's Foam and Westwood Day are the next two items.
Right. So we're going to, or we have canceled Fireman's Foam this year. Again, 300, 400, 500 kids running around in a big mass of foam did not seem safe. We talked to the Board of Health about this. They agreed that it would be the right thing to do. So that event has been canceled. Okay. We still need to post it, but similar to the fishing derby. This is a smaller event that we do every year, of course, and just for safety, we didn't feel comfortable doing it. The bigger item is Westwood Day. As we talked about in the last meeting, there's a lot of difficulties with Westwood Day this year. We would need to reconfigure the entire campus after talking with Board of Health, feeling as that food court would not be a good place. It would, because that's where everybody sort of gathers, and the feeling was that they would want the food vendors spread out amongst the campus. That creates logistical issues because they need electricity, and we generally have the generators in one spot. And the reality is, until last night at about 8 p.m., we're planning for summer. We're pretty much done with the planning stage for our camp now, thankfully. But we still need to plan for fall, which has not started yet. Traditionally, it will have started by now. And it's not just plug and play the old programs. We're going to have to reconfigure those in a similar way that we had to reconfigure the summer. And so that'll start in a couple of weeks once camp settles down, and we'll go through right, to mid-August, if not later. So the feeling was that Westwood Day would need to be, we would be able to realistically start looking at Westwood Day again in September, which may have been doable if it was a normal Westwood Day, but where we're going to have to reconfigure the entire campus, it's just would be extraordinarily difficult to pull that off. So working with Chris Coleman and Board of Health, we came to the conclusion and the recommendation that we cancel Westwood Day. Based on our meeting at the Rec Commission, it seemed like there was general consensus to an agreement that we do cancel Westwood Day. And Chris and I presented to the Select Board last week, and basically shared the same story that I just did now, to and including the fact that there seemed to be general agreement here that it was the right move to cancel Westwood Day this year. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that, but if there aren't any, Ann, I'd also ask that if we could just formalize the agreement of this commission that Westwood Day be canceled. It's already canceled. The Select Board already canceled it, but I just wanted to memorialize that this committee agreed that that was the right thing to do.
So I'll give people a chance to, if they have any questions for Rich first, unmute and, okay. I mean, I'm in agreement. I'd make a motion to accept, but to formalize the Select Board's decision to cancel Westwood Day. Does anyone second it?
I'll second it.
All seconds and all in favor? Aye.
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 And anyone opposed? Bob, you might be muted if you're trying to talk. No, still muted.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
No, Bob,
No, I
Bob
think
is.
Bob. I thought I saw.
Bob is-
Okay, I'm unmuted now.
Yes, you are.
Now.
Did you have something you want to add?
Not me.
For what?
I'll second.
No.
Were
No, I
you?
just
Were you?
want to say that I voted aye.
Aye.
I
Okay,
did
great.
want to revisit, the, I'm sorry I was late. I forgot all about the meeting, but the tennis course lights are on right now. Is that correct?
Three of
Only
them are.
3.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause I've seen them on for over a week, so I was wondering, it seems like every meeting we talk at length about the tennis courts, but
So we recommended that all 6 courts be lit because of many phone calls to both Rich and to Ken. And then we'll see how it goes.
okay.
All right, so nobody was opposed? No one opposed to canceling Westwood Day? Okay.
No.
So the update we've been waiting for, summer, how'd it go today?
It went really well.
Excellent.
It went
Wow.
extremely well. So, yeah, you know, if you think about it, we had, and I sort of started talking about this at the beginning, that in May, we did a lot of contingency planning, you know, and one of our contingencies was having pods of 10 and social distancing with masks. And that is the core of what the state guidance came out on June 1st. There are a lot of nuances, a lot of things that we had to figure out, though. We have to have an isolation room should anybody come down with symptoms, or a symptom is the more appropriate way. There's about 10 symptoms that they could potentially have. And if they have one of them, we have to isolate them. It requires having a bathroom that is also an isolation bathroom. It requires that for any program that we run, this isn't just camp, it's any program we run, there's inside space of 30 square feet per child in an emergency. And if they are to be active inside, there has to be 42 square feet. So we had to find space that where the classrooms, as you know, we operate out of classrooms out of the schools. And we had to make sure the rooms were big enough to handle pods of 10. Fortunately, they were big enough. So we were able to meet that. But there was there was a series of about 20 things that we had to solve for, that the clock was ticking on June 1st at 4 p.m. when the guidance was released. We met with the schools on June 4th, school administration. Of course, we needed more room at the high school. We couldn't get it. They run a program themselves. I believe it's a special needs program in the summer. And one of the things in the guidance was we needed to know who was in the premises at all times, and they couldn't be let in unless they were screened, and we wouldn't know who their people were, and they wouldn't know who our people were. So we kind of collectively agreed that we couldn't have two programs going on at the same time. And where they couldn't give us more space, we had to find another space, and they graciously gave us Martha Jones. We went over, we looked at it, and the outside grounds are a little bit smaller than what we would have wanted, but we're making it work. We had to hire a company to clean and sanitize the place every day. Got that done in 2 days, which is absolutely unbelievable that we were able to get that done in 2 days. And the final hurdle was getting approved, the final approval from the schools, and we got that on the morning of the 10th. And so we removed all the hurdles one by one, and it took us 10 days to do it. And then the one thing that we weren't able to do was remove the hurdle of, do we have enough time to pull this off now in two and a half weeks? And because of all the work we did in May, we felt like we could pull off camp. But many of the sport programs that we run, we were not able to pull off. Every program now was being governed by the Board of Health, whereas ordinarily it's just camp. We had to create a parent handbook for every program, a COVID protocol for every program, where, of course, and there was just no way we were going to be able to do that for 25 programs that we run. So we made the decision at that point, with the small exception of a 2 or 3 different sport programs where we could meet the indoor space needs. The rest of the sports programs were canceled, but we decided to go ahead with camp. And we submitted our COVID master plan to the Board of Health, and a remarkable job by Joe Bertoni. It came back. Linda Shea, who was brought into by Jared to the camp licensing, both us and Hale. And she had no comments. There was an apostrophe missing. That was it. And she said it was very well done. So kudos to Joe for the effort that he put together, pulling all the guidance for COVID and making that happen. And so we were ready to go. We had a remarkable first day drop off. I mean, every day the campers have to, or the parents have to bring a health screen that they've completed. They don't get out of the car. They give it to us. We make sure that the kids are healthy. And we had drop off done. Everybody was in their class by 9:17. So it took us 17 minutes to get everybody unloaded, which is remarkable. Day
Wow.
one. And of course, we got nailed by a big rain shower around noon, which kind of was a bummer. It hadn't rained in 3 weeks, and all of a sudden we get these biblical rainstorms the past couple days, which was unfortunate. My favorite thing of the day was as we were walking kids from the drop-off into their classrooms at the beginning of the day. I heard one of the counselors talking to one of the little boys. I'm guessing he was first or second grade. And she said, "Are you excited to come to camp?" And he's like, "Yeah, I really can't wait to see my friends. I haven't seen them in months."
Oh, that's sad. That's cute.
Yeah, so it was good.
It's happy.
So,
It's happy.
We had one bee sting. Other than that, everybody stayed healthy. And the kid was brave, no problem. And pickup at the end of the day went just as well. I think the last pickup, it was, it comes in waves and rushes, but everybody was, it was like a 17 or 20 minute thing to get everybody picked up. And which, again, that was no different than in years past. And if you think about it, when we were running the old program out of the high school, we had been more or less doing the same thing for 20 plus years, and every year just refining it a little bit. Today was day one of week one of year one of this new program, and it went off without a hitch.
Wow. Congratulations.
Hey, Rich, I got a quick question for you. So you said we're using the Martha Jones as well?
Not as well. We are using Martha Jones.
So are we inside the school as well as outside the school?
That's correct.
Rich, could you talk about the numbers? How many you planned? How many actually enrolled? And is that vary by week?
It does. So this week we have approximately 120 or 130. In the upcoming weeks, we're anywhere from 150 to 170, 180.
Oh.
So obviously way off from our max of 250 in last year, but given the situation, I'm pretty happy with those numbers. I'd like them to be more, and to the extent that anybody that wants to send their kids to camp, we'd love to take them. But in light of the circumstances, I think that's great.
Bob, did you have something you were trying to say earlier?
Well, being a capitalist, I just want to, I believe there was 128 kids registered for today per the website. And how many staff members did you have there outside of your normal payroll, Rich?
So we have 2 people extra that are going around the campus on a rotational basis throughout the day, sanitizing. And we do have a few extra staff. I don't know the exact number, Bob. I'm going to have those numbers by the end of the week. I don't have them right now. But there definitely are additional expenses that we're incurring because our ratios are not as, let's say, liberal as they would normally be. We have more staff that way. So yeah, we will incur more expenses.
My understanding was that there were some counselors that you asked not to come in this week because numbers were lower.
That's
So
correct.
You don't have to pay them for that week, this week.
That's correct. We had, we had upwards of 230 people registered, 220, 230 people registered some weeks. And we've had a lot of cancellations because of COVID.
Yeah.
And so we can't schedule them if we don't have the kids there. So.
Rich, can I ask you a question?
Please.
Are you going to advertise in the local paper that there are openings for camps?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have been posting we had it mentioned in 2 select board meetings. We have posted to the town wire, the thing that gets mailed out by the town to everybody that we were open. And I didn't consider going to the local newspaper. I suppose we could do that.
Yeah, the Hometown Weekly.
Yeah.
Would this ever be on like Westwood Bulletin Board Facebook page or anything like that?
That's a good idea too. The Westwood, what is it called? The
Westwood
Bulletin Board, is that?
The Facebook group. It's a closed
Right,
group, but you can request membership. There's a lot of people on it. Give them something else to talk about besides.
And even we could open it up to Medfield and Norwood too.
Yeah.
And when you say open up, you mean advertising? Because it's
Yeah.
already opened up.
You know, if it's in the paper, if it's in Hometown Weekly, it goes.
Hometown Weekly, yeah, you're right.
Walpole and Norwood and Medfield.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Figure that. I'll think about that tomorrow. How to go about doing that. We got to make.
Hometown Weekly, I think you've missed your deadline for next week, so that's going to put it out. It's going to put it out another week, isn't it? So it's not this week; it'll be next week. So
Yeah.
you're not going to get it in for Thursday. It's going to be the following Thursday, and that's a week of time. Is there like a phone thing that we can put out a blast? Would this qualify for a voicemail blast to the town of Westwood?
I can talk to Chris about that.
Yeah, I mean that would definitely get to people. But I'm just.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm just thinking that, no offense to the newspaper. I know it gets a lot of readership, but it's going to put us a week and a half behind on getting more people.
Well, we could do both. I mean, we put it out to the newspaper, but also pursue more immediate
Yeah,
methods.
that Facebook page, the Westwood Facebook page, that would be a good idea. And you could do that probably tomorrow, get out there.
Yeah, they do approve people joining that page relatively quickly.
What's that? The Westwood Bulletin Board? Is that the one you're talking about?
Westwood Bulletin Board. Yeah, it's a Facebook group. Good idea.
All right, well, I'll consider those items tomorrow and see what we can do to get some more word out.
And is there a plan? You said you couldn't get all the sports programs running. Is there a plan to get some up and running throughout the summer, or are we just focusing on camp?
Just focusing on camp. We're able to do baseball clinics, tennis lessons and tennis clinics. And we have one other one, weeks 8 and 9, I believe it's called Games Galore. See, the challenge, Ann, is that many of the sports clinics or sport programs, whatever you want to call them, are run out on the fields. And we need access to building where we can have emergency space of 30 square feet per person. We've got to have an isolation room and an isolation bathroom.
Yeah.
And then we have to create all the documentation, much of which we would be able to share what we've already created and change it a little bit so that it meets the circumstance. But there's a lot to overcome to try to figure that out. And I just thought, well, with the programs that we had, the feeling was that we weren't going to be able to pull it all off, and we wanted to focus on the core.
Yeah.
And the big challenge is the space. And of course, we rely on the schools for space, and all of the schools this year have to be set up for the fall. And so it's not just the normal summer for them. So that restricts our access to the buildings. And there was discussion that we could possibly have taken Deerfield as well. But then trying to figure all of that out, and we have to pay to clean it. The amount of money we're paying to clean Martha Jones is unbelievable. And then trying to do that for 2 buildings, there's a lot that goes into trying to get these programs, which when you add up all the sport programs together, it's very significant. It's second to camp, but each individual program is nowhere near
Yeah.
as big as camp. And, you know, if we were to pick one or two, it would be very difficult to make it work financially because of the money we have to spend to comply with COVID.
So,
There's no programming at the pool right now. Is that right? It's just open swim, or
There is no programming at the pool. We can't open the pool until
can't open
phase
the pool.
3.
Phase
Yeah, so I can give you an update on where we are with the pool just in general. So we're ready to go for phase.
Before you move on to the pool, I just have one more quick question about the Martha Jones.
Go ahead.
Just as an information, for my information only. What rooms are you using? What rooms are you using inside the Martha Jones?
Pretty much every room.
What's that?
Pretty much every room.
Every room in the Martha Jones, like, are you using, when you go in this, are you going, so let me just so there's, as you go in the side door, the side entrance by the baseball field, are you using those 2 rooms there on the left?
The classrooms?
No, the 2 private offices there.
No.
You're not using those. Okay.
No, is that one of those your wife's?
Exactly. I just want to make sure that again, I just want to make sure when she comes back, what she has to do for cleaning, she has pre-existing condition. I just want to make sure.
It's being sanitized every single night.
Yeah.
By a professional company, ServPro.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been able to open the camp without this cleaning.
Yeah.
So, because we, to open up our office, we had to have cleaning throughout the day, or we couldn't reopen. I mean, that was part of the whole plan to reopen.
And you have cleaning throughout the day too, Rich. I heard you say there were 2 staff members whose jobs are to float around and clean during the day.
That's correct. They're hitting high touch surfaces with sanitization wipes, and they have a special spray that they use, and so they're getting all the high touch areas during the day.
And so PPE for like the staff, for the kids,
masks, mask, gloves if they are doing the sanitization and whatnot. Yeah, healthcare supervisors wearing full PPE. At drop off, it's mask and gloves. Yeah.
And when the kids are outside, can they take their masks off if they're not?
Yep. If they're doing an activity that requires them to be within 6 feet each other outside, they would wear the mask. But we're trying to encourage programming or activities outside that allow them to stay apart so that they don't have to wear the mask.
Yeah.
And the goal is to spend as much time outside as the weather permits this year.
Yep. Will there be is there sprinklers, water play, anything like that?
Yep.
Yeah. Keep them cool. Yeah. Oh, good. And I assume the playground equipment is being fully sanitized.
It is. It's being washed. The requirement is washed, not sanitized for the playground equipment. So that's being done daily.
And do you have rogue people coming to, kids would play basketball in those courts when they weren't even open. I'm assuming that might happen. People might wander in not knowing. Like I didn't know it was at Martha Jones until today.
Yeah. So what we saw today was we had some folks driving through on bicycles and whatnot, but not people that were coming to use the facility itself.
Okay. That's cool. Well, again, good job. Congratulations for pulling this off.
Thank you. I mean, the staff deserves the credit. They did an amazing job.
Well, please send our high fives, cheers, congratulations from us to them.
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll do.
And so you talked about the fall and how the fall planning would be starting up. Basically, all your time is going to be working towards fall programming, and Westwood Day just isn't going to be able to happen. Were there more fall updates you wanted to give us? Because I do see summer and fall on the agenda.
Yeah, so I can tell you, let me tell you what's going on for fall, what the plan is for fall anyway, and then I'll segue into the pool, if that's okay.
Yeah.
ordinarily right now, what we would be doing is we would be finishing up on the fall programming over the next few weeks. Much of the work would be started actually in the spring because, of course, we have to take a pause because of summer programming. It's obviously a very busy time. And ordinarily, we would have the brochure go out mid-August. So this year is going to be different because unless the guidance changes, which theoretically it could, if you look at the original guidance that came out on June 1st, they did indicate that as things loosen up, as if the number of cases continues to go in the right direction, they could loosen up some of the guidance. We haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen any change. They have updated the current, but it was very minor updates. It was not anything significant. And it was really more just clarifications of the existing guidance, really more than loosening of the guidance. So we're going to have to take a look at all of our fall programming and rework it in a similar fashion to what we did for our summer programming. We have to look for the proper space. We have to look for the proper literature that we have to produce. We have to talk to the schools about the space because in the fall, all of our programming is run out of Downey, or not all of it, but a good number of our program is run out of Downey. And I don't know if we're going to have access to that building this year. That conversation will happen, hopefully. I mean, they just got their guidance last week. So, in the next week or so, we're going to have to sit down and say, are we going to be able to get into that building? That's going to determine how much programming we'll even be able to offer. So it will start there. And then we're going to have to look at what program we have and figure out how we're going to fit into this existing guidance. All right. So we can't really do that, at least operationally. I mean, there's sort of the logistical side of it with the schools, but then there's the operational side of it. And until camp sort of starts to settle in, we can get Kelly and Joe and, back in the office and start spending a little bit of time thinking about that. And then, we'll go from there. And what that's going to look like or how it's going to entail at this point, it would be 100% speculation. I just know the process that we went through with camp. It's extensive, and we're going to have to do the same thing with this programming.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
All right. Any questions about that before I move on to the pool? All right. So the pool, we can't operate the pool at all until we go to phase 3, which was scheduled to go today, but a week ago, Governor Baker pushed it back tentatively to next Monday, July 6th. So right now we're hoping that he confirms that. There was rumors he was going to confirm it today. He didn't. But right now we're operating under the understanding that we'll be able to open on Monday, July 6th, unless it gets pushed back. So what we're doing is we are going to operate the pool lap swim only. And it won't be there will not be open swim. It'll all be by reservation. You'll be able to reserve the pool for, pardon me?
What capacity reservation? How many people?
Six people per hour.
Okay.
So one person per lane.
Correct. Yep. We're gonna honor all the social distancing guidelines. We're gonna have people arriving every 5 minutes throughout the hour, and they'll come in. They'll basically, go do their shower and whatnot before they get to the pool. Get in their lane. They're going to be wearing a mask until they get into the pool. All their stuff will be sort of at the end of their lane. They'll do their swim. They'll go in, shower, and leave. And it's just going to be a rotation. People can reserve the pool 3 times a week. And membership only at this point. No daily memberships. We're not going to be exchanging any money. It's all going to be membership. Because again, we don't want to be moving the money during this time. And so that's generally speaking what it's going to look like during phase 3, which is until right until they get a cure or a treatment, right? So it could be a while.
So how long can you reserve the pool for? Is it an
Week in
hour?
advance, an hour, and it turns out to be an hour and a half. But you're in the pool. I think you're in the pool for an hour, so it's 15 minutes, and yeah.
15
So
minutes to get ready, 15 minutes to
that's
shower.
right. Yeah, and you're allowed to reserve a week in advance.
A week in advance.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And 3 times a week. That's a complicated, a week in advance and 3 times a week and monitoring that, yeah.
Yeah, it is fairly complicated, but you know, if you think about just trying to keep people apart,
Yeah.
the only way we can do it is through reservation and by staggering the reservations throughout the hour.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
And if you were to go on to, it's actually, it makes more sense when you see it on paper. And if you were to go to our registration system and look for pool reservations, it's laid out very systematically, and it makes sense.
Oh, good.
And so, yeah, we're gonna test it out on Monday. I'm sure it'll work well. Sue and her staff have done an amazing job planning through this. There's a lot of extra requirements, again, from COVID. We'll have more staff than we ordinarily would to make sure that everybody stays safe. The other thing we'll be doing is when we have free times, and right now we don't know what the demand is going to be. We know that the demand is very high right now. Everybody can't wait to get to the pool, but you know, based on these reservations, how it will, you know, what it's going to look like. We have the ability to do some private lessons based on the ability of the swimmer. So it would be what we call level 3 swimmer and above. We don't want to be too close to the swimmer. So if they need help, we don't want to do the entry levels. But if the kids can swim and they want to learn strokes and whatnot, where we can keep a distance. So we're going to do that. I think I failed to mention the hours of the pool will be 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay.
And it's just the weekdays.
No weekends.
No weekends. And then we're also going to be renting the pool. We have demand for rentals, and that will happen after 6. So we have a few different, like we have a scuba diving company that rents the pool. I think an underwater hockey league that rents the pool and whatnot, a few others. So there's some decent demand for rentals.
And then the hockey is like social distancing, okay?
Yeah, I think there's 6 people on each end, and Sue felt comfortable that was so.
Okay.
But obviously, we're making sure that all of that complies. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I was wondering about evening hours for lap swim, like, do you think I know you said there's demand for organizations to rent the pool in the evening, but wouldn't there be demand for residents to do lap swim in the evening as well? Something?
Yeah.
Because
It might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to, we've got to, there's staffing considerations.
Do we normally have lap swim in the evening? I guess that's my first question. That should be my first question. Is it a takeaway?
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it will be seen as a takeaway. It's something to consider, maybe, even if it was just a couple nights a week.
And the extra staffing, is that for the restrooms or what is
Well,
it?
it's that we got to control the flow of people, and the requirements for the lifeguards and whatnot is greater. So, yeah.
The requirements for lifeguards is greater with less swimmers.
Well, it's not that. So they have to have, I can get you whatever information you want on that. I don't know the specific details of what those requirements are. I just know that it's more.
It's more interesting. It's just interesting to me. With
Yeah.
less swimmers, you need more staff.
Right. The requirements around PPE, I mean, it's remarkable, but they're going to be operating in pods of 4. Their staff are going to be operating in pods similar to the way we're operating in pods for camp.
Must be
So-
something to do with the rescue. I'm
Well,
just.
yeah, but I know she's gonna have somebody greeting them, she's gonna have somebody directing them, so,
Mhm.
right,
I can totally see it in the restrooms. I think
Yeah.
that,
absolutely.
yeah.
How do you like that job? Patrolling the
So
restrooms.
it's definitely gonna be a challenge, but I mean, Sue has it all worked out. I mean, she's got the whole thing mapped out. She's got maps, she's got written procedures. It's very, very well thought through.
Mhm. No doubt, she's got it organized.
Yeah.
So that's the pool. Hopefully, fingers crossed, Monday, the 6th, we'll be able to start taking patrons back into the pool.
Yeah, I heard the numbers might have gone the wrong way today in Massachusetts or over the weekend.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, someone told
So
me.
today's numbers were good.
Oh, good. Yeah, someone told me they saw it red on CNN for the first time on the chart for the first time in a long time, Massachusetts. So I thought, oh no. All right, so anyone have any questions about the pool, the camp, fall? Anything that Rich presented? All right, so then, go ahead.
So I was just driving by the tennis courts, and I'm here now, and I know Bob. I know we've talked a lot about tennis courts, but the lights are on, and I thought we were on a timer here, and there's absolutely nobody here. That's one thing, and Liz, I mean, this is the whole thing for you too. I mean, there are signs here. You can, they're very hard to read, but also it says there's another sign here. It says, courts 1 through 3 are reserved, right? For tennis lessons or for tennis or something, 8 to 12 p.m. for Westwood Recreation tennis lessons and clinics, and there are no court numbers on this.
Yeah.
So no one knows what court 1 through 3 is.
Yeah, that we had court numbers last year on the courts. Those went up because we requested it for the same reason, because it was difficult to say. And
That's
so
great.
the timers I think are on 30-minute increments.
1 hour.
Oh, 1 hour? Okay, 1 hour. So if you press the button, then they're on for an hour. And then if people leave, they leave, so you can't, that's a hard one.
So someone had to have pressed the button within the last hour for the lights to be on. They wouldn't be on otherwise. Okay.
Correct.
That's fine.
But sometimes people press the buttons for multiple courts. I've seen them press 3 or 4 to get more light and just play on one.
Well, I think there's only one button for 3 courts. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
One button for 3 courts. So there are 2 buttons. There's one button that lights the ones by softball, and then the ones that light the courts for baseball.
That's correct.
And then I'll close out with just one last comment. And I'm up here looking at the rules and regulations. There's no guidance on saying if there are people waiting, you have to get off after a certain amount of time.
Right.
So this should, and I think that there should be.
Yeah. So Elizabeth's going to work with Rich.
I worked on this. I'll take what we have and I will modify it and put a bullet list, and I'll send it to all of you.
Perfect.
I think you need to send it to Rich. Right.
So I'll send it to whoever wants to look at it. Happy to share.
I don't know that we're allowed to. Rich doesn't have to go through you.
I have no idea. So
I don't think
I would just say that the way I look at it is that what I would recommend is that in a similar fashion, you form a subcommittee, okay, similar to what you did with the fields policy, and you can name whoever you want, okay, and that subcommittee can meet to debate, discuss, agree to what the sign should be, and then you can bring it back to this meeting and everybody can vote on it to agree, and if they want to modify it or whatever. But I would, in order for you to meet and have these discussions, you need to form a subcommittee, and then you can have those discussions outside of this commission meeting.
okay. So
the problem with waiting to the next meeting though is that it's in August. It would be nice to get signage up sooner than that.
It definitely, well, at least the numbers on the courts would be very helpful, because we did have those last year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3 was by the baseball, 4, 5, 6 was by the softball. If those
Right.
numbers go up, that would be
If,
good.
I mean, if you want to delegate it to Elizabeth and she can work with me, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to.
Yeah,
Because I can just go up and like type something, so it's just Rich and I, like, we're the subcommittee. Can that be a thing?
Yep.
I don't know.
yeah, just delegate it,
Yeah.
delegate it to Elizabeth and she and I can work on it.
Does anyone else want to participate, or do you, I mean,
Anybody
I feel like you know what you're doing.
I'm
You're the
happy
one
to
just-
share.
Yeah.
No one else? You guys not interested in?
All in favor of delegating to Elizabeth and Rich?
Liz, if you're looking
And
for
Paul.
someone to stick their nose in, I'll gladly.
Yeah, fine, Paul. You
I'll
can,
gladly
I'll
do that.
send it to you. So you,
Yeah,
Rich, Paul,
absolutely.
myself. Perfect.
Perfect.
All right, so let's say Rich, Elizabeth, Paul work offline and we
Yeah.
delegate to them, and
Okay.
is everyone in favor of that? Do we have to vote aye?
Aye.
No opposed, okay.
I have a question. Maybe I'm confused. It's not hard to confuse me sometimes. But I heard a half hour ago that only 3 courts were coming on, and Paul just said they were all on. So,
No,
No.
He meant
No.
three.
Only 3.
okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
He meant
I
all three.
do want to say this, and maybe Rich, I never mentioned it to you, but maybe you could shed some light on it. At the last meeting, Elizabeth raised the issue of the nets. So I went down and looked at the nets,
They got fixed.
and they look pretty good to me. So then I happened upon Elizabeth, or Elizabeth happened upon me, and I said to her, Elizabeth, I checked those nets after you raised an issue at the last meeting. They don't look bad at all. And so she said, oh, they must have done some work on them. So Rich, are you aware of any work that was done on those nets?
I talked to Matt Gillis about getting those nets repaired. And I did not see them do it, but it didn't happen magically. So I'm assuming they did it.
Yeah, they
Oh,
definitely,
great.
they did it like the next day after our last meeting. 'Cause
Okay, so we got something done in a timely fashion.
And I
How
did
about
have-
that?
We
I
did.
did have one question about the courts. I'm sorry to keep bringing
Oh,
it,
no more questions.
but whoever repaired one of the courts, like the service line, it's painted green instead of white. And if anybody has I'm happy to go out and touch up the line myself. I just want to know if there's paint around.
So I've been after the company that resurfaced those courts. I sent them a note after the last meeting. So I don't remember the exact date. I sent the salesman and their scheduler a note within a week after our last meeting, and I've received no response, and they've been extremely difficult to deal with. So they were supposed to do a repair. They did it in an unsatisfactory way, and they said they were going to come back, and I've been chasing them now for quite some time to get them to come back. They're non-responsive.
Well, I'm happy to do the painting. I can look it up and find out and just
This could be a photo op for you, Elizabeth. Let us
paint.
know. We'll take the picture.
Yeah, no problem. I have
Rec commission member goes above and beyond
Yeah.
tennis court.
Bob, I hear you take good care of some of those fields, so if you can do it, I can do it.
Right.
Alright. So, any other questions, summer, fall, tennis, pool, or any items that couldn't have been anticipated in advance of this meeting that people want to bring up?
So I have a fast question to ask you. How are we going to recover the lost funds?
Lost.
How are we gonna do what?
funds.
How do you recover lost funds from the summer?
Oh,
Wow.
you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there'll be won't there be a budget discussion in an upcoming meeting to see what kind of a shortfall, if any, we're in, or? Because we'll be losing money in the fall too, that revenue that we normally would have.
Right. It's my understanding, and I've been talking to,
We lost the money in the spring as well.
Yeah.
right. I've had conversations with the finance folks in town, and it's my understanding that you can put in because this is sort of like a disaster, right? So they've got disaster relief funds and whatnot.
Okay.
and you can put in for funds to recoup for expenses that that you've incurred to manage, COVID.
Extra
But
staff.
you can't put in for lost revenue. And I've heard from other towns, and there's a weekly meeting that we participate in, and other towns have tried it and they're not paying out on lost revenue. So
What about additional staff that had to be hired? Is that additional?
that's expenses that we can submit, and I'm in the process of doing that.
Yeah.
No, I
I mean,
understood.
we're right now, we haven't realized any of that, but starting today, we do, and then we'll have extra staff for the pool. So yeah, we'll work on trying to get some recouping of those expenses.
What did you say, Sheila?
So I'm also questioning, can the people that you thought, the councils that you thought you could hire, can they collect unemployment?
I don't know.
Okay.
Unemployment, I think, is because my son also got his summer job got canceled. I think unemployment is not like they wouldn't be eligible because of
They're seasonal.
dependent.
They're seasonal, they can collect.
They can
Well,
collect.
Yeah.
But they're dependent, so I don't know.
Any difference?
Doesn't make a difference. I assumed that the CARES Act money would count, but not unemployment. No.
No, they totally can collect unemployment. So I'm just trying to figure out, okay, how do you keep stopping the scourge?
How do you stop what?
How do you stop everyone taking money and
Yeah.
Stop them from taking what money? Unemployment?
Government money.
You got students, kids that counselors that we hired, and now they
Yeah.
can go collect. So
Well,
now,
is that true? Rich, is that true? You hired some kids and now you told them they're not hired anymore?
I haven't told anyone they're not hired.
It's a week at a time, right? You've asked people not to come in for a week here or there.
That's
Yeah, but
right, but
that
it's not
doesn't
that,
qualify
it's not
for-
that they won't get any hours this summer.
so every counselor that's right now that you have hired can get some type of hours.
I would say that that's mostly true. I won't say it's exactly true. I don't really look at that's something that Joe and Kelly handle. We've had discussions about it, and it's my understanding that if they didn't get hours this week, they'll get them next week. And, they might wind up not getting 1 week of the summer instead of, all 5.
Okay.
I think, Sheila, you raise a great issue with that. You're right. If we hired them and then we don't use them because of COVID, they can collect unemployment. You better be very careful with that one, because if these kids are smart, I had a problem at the golf course down in Florida. I had guys quit saying they didn't feel comfortable working in a COVID environment. They got unemployment plus $600. And guess what? They doubled their revenue.
But that was their right, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I'm saying if we have kids, that all who we hired, who now say all of a sudden, I don't feel comfortable working in this COVID environment, they could collect and quit.
But how do we stop that?
That's for confidential. I don't want you advertising it. I'm just saying that is a possibility.
Definitely check with HR on that. I know that the way that they're hired is definitely different from, I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they qualify.
No,
For
they do.
CARES.
Listen, if you're hired by Rich, the rec department,
Yeah.
and then Rich I guess this isn't gonna happen. And then if he said, look, our numbers are down because of COVID and we can't hire you, they are eligible to
Yeah,
collect.
I would think so too.
Yeah, that's what Sheila said, and I'm just confirming what she said is correct.
I'm going to talk to you offline about my son, Sheila. He's looking for another job, but if he doesn't get one, he can collect, I think. At least CARES. But that's not, anyways.
I'm sorry, I was muted. May I make a comment? I
Yes.
have to be careful here, but Rich, the boys, and I know there are counselors who were hired and who were not put on this week, will they be rotated in for the rest of the 4 weeks? And is there a fair rotation going on here?
Yep, so they will be rotated in, Mitch.
Okay, that's my only concern, because you hired a bunch of counselors, and I understand what's going on, and then you told a bunch of the counselors this week that they're not working. So I just want to make sure that that's fairly distributed among the counselors.
Yep, I've had that conversation with the people that are doing the scheduling.
Okay, that's all we can ask. We appreciate you running the camp and giving the kids a chance to work, but I just want to make sure that's fair. That's all. Just in full disclosure, my son is one of them who was hired and then was told this week he wasn't working. So I just want to be upfront. I just want it to be fair. I don't have a gripe about that. I know we appreciate what you're doing, but I just want to make sure that he's in for the next 4 weeks, along with the other boys who.
Yep.
There were girls too. It's not just boys. There were girls who were told not to come in as well.
I'm sorry.
Mitch, it's 5 more weeks. And historically, this week is the slowest week of the camp season.
I know, I understand.
Last week was week 1. That's a very busy week. This is week 2, and it's historically a slow week.
No, I understand. I didn't want to be
Getting COVID, it's slow.
I just want to make sure there's a fair rotation. That was my only concern. I'm not right.
Yeah.
No complaints, Rich. Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch.
So anything else that people couldn't be anticipated prior to 48 hours prior? The next meeting, I wanted to bring up that I'm actually on vacation that week, the week of August 17th. That was a tentative date. But is there another date that we could choose? It's my only time off in August that I know of. It was the Monday after or the Monday before. Was it the 10th or the
24th.
24th.
24th? Thank you. I was a math major, but I don't know. No excuses. Long day.
I mean, I don't have a problem. Work that out with Angela.
Do people have the 10th or the 24th are either bad for people?
I will be on vacation on the 10th, but it's okay. Do whatever's convenient for most of us.
I'll be on vacation the week of the 15th.
All right, so that's the same week as me, Paul. So do you want to say the 24th if people? Okay. I was supposed to be in Aruba on the 24th, but canceled that trip.
Cheshire Cat.
Would you say, Bob?
That grins like the Cheshire Cat.
Yeah. What can you do? All right. So August 24th, and then if there's nothing else, does someone want to make a move to adjourn the meeting?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Lynn seconds. Well, all in favor. I guess before we all in favor, let's just thank Lynn for all your time with us and stay in touch. Send us an email every so often. Let us know how you're doing.
Well,
Thank you.
Good luck, Lynn.
Enjoy, Lynn. Enjoy.
Gonna miss you.
All right,
Lynn,
and
thank
then
you.
all in.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah,
For everything, really.
I know you will be missed.
thank you.
That's for sure.
Hey, Rich.
Yes.
Before you go by, I have something I'd like to. Can you give me a call on the cell following the meeting? Just want to talk to you about Martha Jones. Is that something we can do, or just
Yeah,
stay on it?
Yeah,
just
I don't think we can stay on. It's being recorded.
Okay.
Can't stay on.
So you guys will connect offline, and then all in favor of adjourning the meeting? Say aye.
Hi.
Bye.
All right. No one's opposed. Bye, Lynn.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
All right.